The autumn wind whispered through the oak trees surrounding Reba McEntire's Tennessee estate as she stood in her walk-in closet, surrounded by decades of memories hanging in pristine rows. Each dress told a story. The emerald green gown from her first CMA win, the rhinestone-studded number from her Vegas residency, the simple black dress she wore the night she sang for President Clinton. "Miss Reba, the reporter from Rolling Stone is here for the interview," called Patricia Williams, her longtime assistant, from the bedroom doorway. Reba took a deep breath, her fingers trailing along the silk fabric of a burgundy dress she'd worn to the Grand Ole Opry 20 years ago. At 68, she had seen enough of life to understand that material possessions, no matter how beautiful or meaningful, were just objects. The real treasures were the experiences, the people touched by music, the lives changed through art. "Tell Amanda Sterling I'll be right there, Patty," Reba replied, her Oklahoma accent still strong after all these years in Nashville. 3 weeks earlier, Reba had made a decision that surprised even her closest friends. She was auctioning every single performance dress in her collection, over 200 pieces accumulated throughout her 40-plus-year career. The announcement had sent shockwaves through the country music community and beyond. Amanda Sterling sat in the sunlit living room, her notebook ready and recorder positioned between them on the antique coffee table. At 34, Amanda had built her reputation as a music journalist by getting artists to reveal more than they intended. She'd covered everyone from Taylor Swift to Willie Nelson, but interviewing Reba McEntire felt different, more significant somehow. "So Reba, let's start with the obvious question," Amanda began, her pen poised. "Why are you auctioning your entire dress collection? These aren't just clothes, they're pieces of country music history." Reba settled into her favorite armchair, the same one where she'd written lyrics for dozens of songs over the years. "Amanda, can I tell you about a little girl named Lily?" The question caught Amanda off guard. She'd expected standard answers about decluttering or tax benefits, not a story about a child. "6 months ago, I was visiting St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis," Reba continued, her voice taking on the gentle tone she reserved for her most personal stories. "I met this 8-year-old girl, Lily Patterson, who was battling leukemia. Her daddy, Jake Morrison, he's a single father, works construction. He told me how Lily would listen to my songs during her treatments." Amanda leaned forward, sensing this wasn't just publicity material. "Lily asked me why I had so many pretty dresses when she couldn't even keep her hair," Reba said, her eyes glistening. It wasn't said with malice or jealousy, just pure childhood curiosity. That question haunted me for weeks. The room fell silent except for the gentle ticking of an antique grandfather clock. "I started researching music therapy programs for pediatric patients," Reba continued. "The results are incredible. Children respond faster to treatments, cope better with pain, maintain hope during the darkest moments. But these programs are severely underfunded. Most hospitals can't afford proper equipment or certified music therapists." Amanda found herself genuinely moved, a rare occurrence in her cynical profession. "So, the auction proceeds. Every penny goes to establishing the Harmony Heals Foundation," Reba confirmed. "We're going to fund music therapy programs in children's hospitals across America. Professional-grade instruments, certified therapists, recording equipment, everything needed to bring healing through music. Do you have any idea how much the collection might raise?" Reba smiled, the same warm expression that had graced album covers for decades. "Elena Rodriguez from Worthington Auction House estimates between $8 and $12 million. Some of these dresses are one-of-a-kind pieces designed by legendary costumers. The dress I wore when I sang Fancy at the 1991 ACM Awards alone could fetch $500,000. Amanda scribbled notes furiously, realizing this story was bigger than she'd anticipated. "What does your family think about this decision?" "My son Shelby thinks I've lost my mind." Reba laughed. "He keeps saying, 'Mama, those dresses are worth a fortune and you're just giving it all away.' But my late husband Charlie, God rest his soul, always taught me that we're blessed to be a blessing to others." The interview continued for another hour, with Reba sharing anecdotes about specific dresses and the memories attached to them. She spoke about the night she wore the silver-beaded gown during her divorce proceedings, how the sequined blue dress gave her confidence during her first solo tour, and the simple white sundress she wore when she received news of her first Grammy nomination. "There's one dress I'm keeping," Reba admitted as the interview wound down. "The red velvet gown I wore the night I met Charlie. Some memories are too precious to let go." After Amanda left, Reba returned to her closet. Patricia found her there an hour later, sitting on the small velvet bench in the center of the room, surrounded by a lifetime of costumes and memories. "Any second thoughts?" Patricia asked gently. "None whatsoever," Reba replied firmly. "These dresses have given me confidence, made me feel beautiful, helped me command stages around the world. Now it's time for them to do something even more important: help children heal." The next morning, Reba's announcement dominated entertainment news across the country. Country music forums buzzed with speculation about which pieces would draw the highest bids. Fashion historians called it the most significant costume auction in music history. But for Reba, the real significance lay in a hospital room in Memphis, where a little girl named Lily was about to begin a new treatment protocol, unaware that her innocent question had set in motion something extraordinary. As autumn deepened in Tennessee, the wheels of the auction process began turning. Elena Rodriguez and her team at Worthington Auction House started the complex process of cataloging, authenticating, and preparing each piece for what promised to be the entertainment event of the decade. Elena Rodriguez had organized auctions for European royalty, Hollywood estates, and tech billionaires. But nothing quite like this. Standing in the climate-controlled warehouse space that Worthington Auction House had rented specifically for the McEntire collection, she felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders like a vintage fur stole. Each piece needs individual photography, detailed condition reports, and provenance documentation, Elena explained to her team of 6 specialists. At 42, she had earned her reputation through meticulous attention to detail and an ability to generate excitement around even the most mundane collections. But this wasn't mundane. This was cultural history. Her assistant, David Chen, carefully lifted a shimmering gold lame gown from its protective garment bag. "This is the dress she wore to the 1993 Country Music Awards when she won Entertainer of the Year," he read from the accompanying documentation. "Custom made by Bob Mackie. Estimated value $40,000 to $60,000. Elena nodded, making notes on her tablet. "The Bob Mackie pieces are going to drive this auction into the stratosphere. Celebrity collectors and fashion museums will be fighting over them." Meanwhile, across Nashville, Amanda Sterling was discovering that her Rolling Stone article had opened doors she'd never expected. Her editor, Richard Banks, called her into his office 3 days after the story published. "Amanda, your Reba piece has been shared more than anything we've published this year," Richard said, gesturing to his computer screen showing engagement metrics. "People are calling it a masterclass in celebrity journalism with heart. I want you to cover the entire auction story from preparation to aftermath." "The entire story?" Amanda asked, intrigued. "Everything. The behind-the-scenes preparation, the auction night, the impact on the beneficiaries. Make it a multi-part series. This is the kind of story that reminds people why music journalism matters." That afternoon, Amanda found herself back at Elena's warehouse, observing the careful cataloging process. She watched as conservators examined decades-old sequins under magnifying glasses, photographed barely visible stains, and documented every repair or alteration. "People think auction houses just sell things," Elena explained as they walked among the dress-filled racks. "But we're really preserving history. Each of these pieces represents a moment in time, a performance, an emotion, a cultural milestone." They paused in front of a deceptively simple black velvet dress. "This one might not look like much," Elena continued, "but Reba wore it the night she performed at the tribute concert for the victims of the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995. The emotional significance could make it one of the highest-selling pieces." Amanda's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "My daughter was at St. Jude when Reba visited. Can we talk? Jake Morrison." "Excuse me for a moment," Amanda told Elena, stepping outside to call the number. "Mr. Morrison? This is Amanda Sterling from Rolling Stone." "Ms. Sterling, I read your article about Reba's auction," came a gravelly voice with a slight southern accent. "My little girl Lily, she's the one who asked about the dresses. I think people should know what this means to families like ours." Amanda's journalist instincts sharpened. Would you be willing to meet? I'd love to hear your perspective. 2 days later, Amanda sat in a small cafe in Memphis, across from Jake Morrison. At 36, Jake looked older than his years. The strain of single parenthood and his daughter's illness etched into the lines around his eyes. But when he spoke about Lily, his whole demeanor changed. Lily's been fighting leukemia for 14 months now, Jake explained, stirring sugar into his coffee with shaking hands. The treatments are brutal, and watching your 8-year-old go through that. He paused, collecting himself. Music is the only thing that consistently helps her cope. How did you meet Reba? St. Jude arranges celebrity visits sometimes. Most celebrities come through, take photos, leave. Reba was different. She spent 3 hours in Lily's room, just talking. They discussed everything from horses to favorite songs, to why Lily wanted to learn guitar. Jake pulled out his phone, showing Amanda a photo of a thin, bald little girl grinning while holding a small acoustic guitar. Reba sent this guitar the next week, Jake continued. But more than that, she stayed in touch. Lily gets text messages from her before every treatment. Not from some assistant, from Reba herself. What did you think when you heard about the auction? Honestly, I was amazed that something Lily said could inspire something so big. But that's who Reba is. She really listens to people. Back in Nashville, preparations for the auction intensified. Word had leaked that several major collectors were planning to attend, including Harrison Webb, an eccentric tech entrepreneur who collected celebrity memorabilia, and Margaret Thornfield, an elderly widow who had built one of the world's largest private collections of entertainment artifacts. Elena received a call that made her nearly drop her coffee. Ms. Rodriguez? This is Jonathan Rivers from the Country Music Hall of Fame. We're interested in bidding on several pieces for our permanent collection. Of course, Mr. Rivers. Which pieces specifically? Well, that's the thing. We're interested in approximately 30 pieces. Our board has approved a budget of up to $2 million. Elena made rapid calculations in her head. If the Country Music Hall of Fame was budgeting $2 million for 30 pieces, it suggested the overall auction could exceed even her highest estimates. The publicity machine was also shifting into high gear. Reba agreed to a primetime interview with Katie Morris from Good Morning America, and fashion magazines were requesting exclusive previews of the most significant pieces. But the most touching moment came when Reba visited the warehouse to see her collection one final time before the auction. It's strange, seeing them all together like this, Reba mused, walking slowly among the racks with Elena and Amanda. Each one represents a different version of me. Young Reba, confident Reba, heartbroken Reba, triumphant Reba. She paused in front of a red sequined gown. I wore this the night I opened for Dolly Parton in 1982, she said softly. I was so nervous I forgot the words to my own song halfway through the second verse. Dolly came out after my set and told me, honey, the audience didn't notice because you sold that song with your heart, not your memory. Amanda found herself unexpectedly emotional. Are you sure you're ready to let them all go? Reba smiled, the same warm expression that had captivated audiences for decades. Amanda, I've been thinking about legacy lately. I used to think legacy was about the records you sold, the awards you won, the dresses you wore. But real legacy is about the lives you touch, the healing you facilitate, the hope you help create. She gestured toward the entire collection. These beautiful things have served their purpose in my life. Now they get to serve a greater purpose. As autumn turned toward winter, the final preparations were completed. The auction was set for December 15th at Worthington's flagship Manhattan Gallery. Preview exhibitions would be held in Nashville, Los Angeles, and New York. The catalog, featuring professional photographs of every piece along with detailed histories, would be distributed to collectors worldwide. But the real story was just beginning to unfold. December 15th arrived with an unexpected snowfall blanketing Manhattan, creating a magical backdrop for what entertainment media had dubbed the auction of the century. The Worthington Gallery on East 78th Street glowed with warm light, its windows displaying some of the most iconic pieces from Reba's collection. Inside, the atmosphere crackled with anticipation. Elena Rodriguez stood at the back of the packed auction room, mentally reviewing every detail one final time. 300 registered bidders filled the elegant space, with phone banks handling remote bidders from around the world. The energy was unlike anything she'd experienced in 20 years of auction work. Amanda Sterling positioned herself where she could observe both the auctioneer and the bidders. Her series for Rolling Stone had generated enormous interest, and tonight she would witness the culmination of months of preparation. Reba herself sat in the front row, flanked by her son Shelby and Patricia Williams. She had flown in from Nashville that morning, telling reporters at JFK Airport, "I wouldn't miss this for the world." Tonight, these beautiful dresses begin their new life as healing for children. Auctioneer Charles Worthington III, Elena's father and founder of the auction house, took the podium at exactly 7 o'clock. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to an extraordinary evening. Tonight, we're not just selling clothing. We're selling history, memories, and most importantly, hope for children facing medical challenges." The first lot, a relatively simple blue satin gown from Reba's early career, opened at $10,000. Within 30 seconds, the bidding had reached $40,000. "Sold for $42,000 to bidder 127, Charles announced. Amanda noticed the winning bidder, a well-dressed woman in her 50s taking notes in a small leather journal. The evening's momentum built quickly. The Bob Mackie pieces commanded astronomical prices, with the gold lame gown from the 1993 Country Music Awards selling for an astonishing $180,000 to Harrison Webb, the tech entrepreneur who participated by phone from his California home. But the emotional peak came with Lot 47, the simple black velvet dress from the Oklahoma City bombing tribute concert. "This piece represents more than fashion," Charles intoned. "It represents art in service of healing, music as balm for national grief." The bidding started at $50,000 and climbed steadily. Amanda watched as Jonathan Rivers from the Country Music Hall of Fame battled against Margaret Thornfield, the elderly collector who had flown in from Chicago specifically for this lot. "$150,000, Rivers called out. "$175,000, Margaret countered, her voice carrying clearly across the silent room. "$200,000, Rivers responded. Margaret hesitated for a moment, then shook her head slightly. "Sold to the Country Music Hall of Fame for $200,000, Charles announced to spontaneous applause. As the evening progressed, Amanda began noticing patterns. Several lots were won by bidders who seemed emotionally invested rather than commercially motivated. The well-dressed woman from the early lots won 6 more pieces, each time making notes in her journal. During the intermission, Amanda approached her. "Excuse me, I'm Amanda Sterling from Rolling Stone. Could I ask what draws you to these particular pieces?" The woman smiled warmly. "I'm Dr. Rebecca Foster. I run the pediatric oncology program at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. These dresses are going to be displayed in our family center. Something beautiful for parents and children to look at during difficult times." Amanda felt her throat tighten. "You're buying them for a hospital?" "The Harmony Heals Foundation approved our proposal," Dr. Foster explained. "Instead of the dresses disappearing into private collections, some will go to hospitals where they can continue bringing joy to people who need it most." This revelation added another layer of meaning to the evening. Reba hadn't just donated her collection for auction. She had ensured that many pieces would continue serving healing purposes. The auction's climax came with the final lot, the rhinestone-studded red dress Reba wore during her famous Fancy performance at the 1991 ACM Awards. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is not just a dress. This is a moment crystallized in sequins and silk," Charles announced. "The dress that helped define contemporary country music performance." The bidding opened at $100,000 and immediately erupted into a fierce battle. Harrison Webb competed against a mysterious phone bidder, with the price escalating rapidly. $400,000, Webb's representative called out. $450,000 from our phone bidder, Charles announced. $500,000, Webb countered. A long pause filled the room. Finally, the phone bank representative shook his head. "Sold for $500,000 to Mr. Webb." The room erupted in applause. Elena quickly calculated the evening's total, over $11 million, far exceeding even her most optimistic projections. But the night's most moving moment came during Charles's closing remarks. "Before we conclude, Mrs. McEntire would like to say a few words." Reba approached the microphone, visibly emotional but composed. Friends, tonight you've helped transform memories into miracles. $11.2 million will fund music therapy programs in children's hospitals across America for the next decade. She paused, looking out over the crowd. I want to tell you about a little girl named Lily Morrison, who asked me a simple question that changed everything. Lily, if you're watching from Memphis, and I know you are because your daddy promised to stream this, these beautiful people just made sure that thousands of children like you will have music to help them heal. The room fell completely silent. Music has given me everything: fame, fortune, joy, purpose. Tonight, music gets to give something back. Tonight, music becomes medicine. As the evening wound down, Amanda interviewed several successful bidders. Harrison Webb had purchased 7 pieces totaling over $1 million. Margaret Thornfield acquired 5 vintage gowns for her museum-quality collection. Dr. Foster secured 9 pieces for hospital displays across the East Coast. But the most surprising revelation came from Jonathan Rivers. The Country Music Hall of Fame didn't just acquire pieces for our permanent collection, he told Amanda. We're organizing a traveling exhibition called Healing Harmonies. These dresses will tour children's hospitals nationwide, bringing both beauty and the story of hope directly to young patients. Elena Rodriguez watched the last bidders leave, exhausted but exhilarated. In 30 years of auction work, I've never seen anything like this, she told Amanda. Usually, high-end auctions are about wealthy people acquiring beautiful objects. Tonight felt like a community coming together to create something bigger than the sum of its parts. As the gallery lights dimmed and the last of the evening's magic faded into Manhattan snow, Amanda realized she had witnessed something unprecedented: the transformation of celebrity memorabilia into instruments of healing, fashion into medicine, nostalgia into hope. The real story, however, was just beginning. 2 weeks after the auction, Amanda Sterling found herself on a plane to Memphis, chasing a story that had taken an unexpected turn. Harrison Webb, the tech entrepreneur who had spent over $1 million at the auction, had made an announcement that surprised everyone. He was donating his entire purchase to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. I collect things because they represent human achievement, Webb had told her during their phone interview. But after researching Reba's foundation and learning about children like Lily Morrison, I realized these dresses could achieve something greater as symbols of hope than as items in my private collection. At St. Jude, Amanda was reunited with Jake Morrison and finally met the girl whose innocent question had started it all. Lily Morrison, now 9 years old and showing remarkable improvement in her treatment response, was nothing like Amanda had expected. "Are you the lady who writes about music?" Lily asked, her energy surprising for someone who had endured months of chemotherapy. "I am," Amanda replied, sitting beside Lily's hospital bed, which was decorated with get-well cards from Reba fans around the world. "Daddy says my question made Reba sell all her pretty dresses to help kids like me. Did I get her in trouble?" Amanda and Jake exchanged glances, both struggling with emotion. "Lily, honey, you didn't get anyone in trouble," Amanda explained gently. "You helped Reba realize how she could use her dresses to help lots of children feel better." "Like medicine made of sequins?" Lily asked, her face lighting up with understanding. "Exactly like that." Jake led Amanda to the hospital's newly constructed music therapy wing, funded entirely by the Harmony Heals Foundation. The space was bright and welcoming, with professional-grade recording equipment, a variety of instruments, and soundproof practice rooms. "The first music therapist, Daniel Patterson, starts next week," Jake explained. Lily's been counting down the days. Amanda interviewed Dr. Margaret Chen, St. Jude's Chief of Pediatric Oncology, who provided medical context for the music therapy program. Research consistently shows that music therapy reduces anxiety, helps manage pain, and improves treatment compliance in pediatric patients, Dr. Chen explained. Children who participate in music therapy programs often show faster recovery times and better overall treatment outcomes. And the emotional benefits? Immeasurable. Music gives children a way to express feelings they can't verbalize, provides distraction during painful procedures, and maintains their connection to joy during the darkest periods of their lives. Meanwhile, in Nashville, Reba was discovering that her auction had created connections she never anticipated. Patricia Williams handed her a stack of letters from auction attendees, children's hospitals, and music therapy organizations around the country. One letter particularly moved her. It came from Dr. Rebecca Foster at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Dear Mrs. McEntire, the 6 dresses we acquired at your auction arrived yesterday and are now displayed in our family center. This morning, a 7-year-old boy undergoing treatment for brain cancer asked his mother if he could dress up fancy like the singing lady for his next appointment. His mother found a small bow tie, and he wore it proudly during his treatment, telling everyone he was fancy like Mrs. Reba. You've given these children more than beautiful things to look at. You've given them inspiration to find beauty and strength within themselves. But the most unexpected connection came through a phone call from Margaret Thornfield, the elderly collector who had acquired 5 vintage pieces at the auction. Mrs. McEntire, I hope you don't mind me calling directly. Margaret's cultured voice carried warmth, despite the formal tone. I wanted you to know what I plan to do with the dresses I purchased. Of course, Mrs. Thornfield, they're yours now. You can do whatever you like with them. My late husband was a music producer in the 1970s and 80s. He would have loved your auction and its purpose. I'm establishing a scholarship program for music therapy students, and these dresses will be auctioned annually to fund it. 1 dress each year, supporting a new generation of music therapists. Reba was speechless for a moment. Mrs. Thornfield, that's incredibly generous. Mrs. McEntire, you taught us that objects have power only when they serve purposes greater than themselves. I'm simply following your example. The ripple effects continued expanding. The Country Music Hall of Fame's traveling exhibition was booked at children's hospitals through 2027. Harrison Webb had established a matching fund program, pledging to match donations to music therapy programs dollar for dollar, up to $5 million. Even Charles Worthington III had been inspired, announcing that Worthington Auction House would donate their commission from the sale, over $1 million, to the Harmony Heals Foundation. Amanda's editor, Richard Banks, called with news that her multi-part series was being developed into a book deal. Publishers are calling it the perfect intersection of celebrity culture and social consciousness, Richard explained. They want you to expand it into a full exploration of how entertainment figures can create lasting social impact. What about the ending? Amanda asked. The story feels ongoing. That's what makes it powerful. You're not documenting a completed charity event. You're capturing the beginning of a movement. As winter turned to spring, Amanda returned to Memphis to check on Lily's progress. The difference was remarkable. The pale, quiet child she'd first heard about had been replaced by an energetic girl who bounded into the music therapy room with enthusiasm. Daniel Patterson, the music therapist, was working with 6 children that day, including Lily. Amanda watched through the observation window as the children collaborated on writing a song about their experiences. What rhymes with brave? Daniel asked the group. Save, called out Tommy, an 8-year-old battling lymphoma. Wave, added Maria, a 6-year-old with leukemia. Gave, shouted Lily, then added thoughtfully, like how Reba gave her dresses so we could have music. Amanda felt tears streaming down her face as she watched these children, each fighting battles no child should face. Finding joy, creativity, and healing through music made possible by sequined dresses and rhinestone dreams. Jake Morrison found her in the hallway after the session. She's doing really well, he said, answering Amanda's unspoken question. The doctors are optimistic about her prognosis, and her spirits have been incredible since the music program started. How do you feel about all the attention this story has generated? Jake was quiet for a moment. At first I worried about Lily being in the spotlight. But then I realized this story isn't really about us. It's about showing people that small acts of kindness can create enormous change. If sharing our experience helps other families in similar situations, then it's worth it. As Amanda prepared to leave Memphis, Lily ran up to her with a small gift. A drawing of a woman in a sparkly dress standing next to a hospital bed where a small girl was smiling. That's Reba and me, Lily explained proudly. But look, there are other kids in the background getting better because of the music. Daddy helped me write words on the back. Amanda turned over the drawing to find carefully printed text. Thank you for telling our story so other kids can have music medicine too. The simple gift crystallized everything Amanda had learned over the past months. This wasn't just a story about a celebrity auction or even about charitable giving. It was about the ripple effects of compassion, the unexpected connections forged through shared humanity, and the transformative power of listening, really listening, to a child's innocent question. 1 year later, Amanda Sterling stood in the Nashville Convention Center, watching as over 500 music therapists, healthcare professionals, and donors gathered for the first annual Harmony Heals Foundation conference. The event would officially launch expanded music therapy programs in 43 children's hospitals across America. Reba took the stage wearing a simple black dress, elegant but not flashy, appropriate for the serious work of healing rather than entertaining. "A year ago, a brave little girl asked me why I had so many pretty dresses," Reba began, her voice carrying clearly throughout the packed auditorium. "Today I want to tell you about the incredible journey that question started." Amanda looked around the audience, recognizing faces from throughout her year of reporting. Dr. Rebecca Foster sat with colleagues from Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Harrison Webb had flown in from California, accompanied by 3 music therapy students whose educations he was funding. Margaret Thornfield, now 84, occupied a front row seat, taking notes in the same leather journal she'd used at the auction. "Music therapy isn't just about playing pretty songs for sick children," Reba continued. "It's about giving young people tools to process fear, express hope, and maintain their essential humanity during medical crises." She introduced Dr. Patricia Valdez, a researcher from Johns Hopkins who had been studying the Harmony Heals programs. "Our preliminary data shows remarkable results," Dr. Valdez reported. "Children participating in music therapy programs show 30% faster recovery times, significantly reduced anxiety levels, and improved treatment compliance. But the most important finding isn't quantifiable. It's the restoration of joy in young lives facing extraordinary challenges." The conference's most moving presentation came from Daniel Patterson, the music therapist at St. Jude, who had brought video testimonials from his patients. On the large screen, Lily Morrison appeared, now 10 years old and in remission. She sat at a piano, her hair growing back in soft brown curls, her face radiant with health and happiness. "My name is Lily Morrison, and music helped save my life," she said directly to the camera. "When I was really sick, music made me feel like I was still me inside, even when everything else was scary and different." She began playing a simple melody she had composed, explaining, "This is called Brave Song, and I wrote it for other kids who are scared about being in the hospital." The melody was hauntingly beautiful, hopeful but acknowledging sadness, complex emotions expressed through a child's musical vocabulary. Amanda found herself crying along with most of the audience. This was the real measure of success. Not the millions raised or the media attention generated, but the restoration of creative expression in children facing life's most difficult challenges. Jake Morrison appeared on screen next, looking healthier and more relaxed than when Amanda had first met him. "Lily's been cancer-free for 6 months now," he reported. "The music therapy program didn't just help her cope with treatment, it helped our whole family process the experience and find ways to support each other." He paused, collecting his emotions. "But I want to say something to Reba McEntire directly. Mrs. Reba, you listened to my daughter. Really listened. When she asked you that question. That simple act of paying attention to a child's perspective changed everything for us, and for thousands of other families. Thank you for showing the world that caring about one child's question can help heal many children." The video presentations continued with testimonials from hospitals across the country. Children's Hospital of Los Angeles reported that their music therapy program had become so successful that other departments were requesting similar creative therapy initiatives. Seattle Children's Hospital showcased a teenage patient who had recorded an album during his treatment, with proceeds donated back to the music therapy program. But the most surprising update came from Harrison Webb, who took the stage to make an unexpected announcement. "When I bought those dresses at auction, I thought I was making a charitable donation," Webb said, his usual tech entrepreneur confidence replaced by genuine emotion. "But visiting hospitals and meeting these children has changed my perspective on everything. How I spend money, how I measure success, how I think about legacy." He paused, looking directly at Reba. "Mrs. McEntire, you've inspired me to auction my entire collection of music memorabilia. I own guitars played by Elvis, costumes worn by Michael Jackson, handwritten lyrics by Bob Dylan, pieces worth millions of dollars. All of it will be sold, with proceeds going to expand Harmony Heals internationally. The audience erupted in spontaneous applause. Reba looked genuinely shocked, covering her mouth with her hands. "Harrison, you don't have to." "Yes, I do," he interrupted gently. "You taught me that the highest use of valuable objects is to create invaluable experiences. These children deserve music therapy programs in every country, not just America." Elena Rodriguez, who had been instrumental in organizing the expanded auction, provided logistics details. Webb's collection was estimated to be worth between $15 and $20 million, enough to fund music therapy programs in children's hospitals across Europe, South America, and Asia. As the conference concluded, Amanda realized she was witnessing the birth of a global movement. What had started with a child's innocent question about sequined dresses had evolved into an international initiative to bring healing through music to young patients worldwide. During the reception, Amanda found herself in conversation with Dr. Chen from St. Jude, who provided medical context for the program's success. "We're seeing results that exceed our most optimistic projections," Dr. Chen reported. "But beyond the clinical improvements, we're witnessing something that's harder to measure but equally important: the preservation of childhood wonder during medical treatment." How so? Music allows children to remain creative and expressive when illness threatens to reduce them to just their diagnosis. They're not just cancer patients or cardiac patients. They're young artists, composers, performers. Music therapy helps them maintain their full identity. Amanda spotted Lily Morrison across the room, surrounded by music therapy students who were eager to hear about her experience. At 10 years old, Lily had become an unofficial spokesperson for pediatric music therapy, her natural charisma and genuine enthusiasm making her the perfect ambassador for the cause. "Are you still writing songs?" one of the students asked Lily. "Oh yes," Lily replied enthusiastically. "I'm working on a whole album called Hospital Songs That Don't Sound Sad. Because being in the hospital is scary, but it doesn't have to be the only thing you remember." Amanda approached Reba, who was standing quietly near the back of the reception, observing the interactions with a satisfied smile. "Any regrets about giving up the dresses?" Amanda asked. Reba laughed, the same warm sound that had characterized her music for decades. "Amanda, look around this room. Look at the connections being made, the programs being launched, the children whose lives are being transformed. Those dresses were beautiful. But this is beautiful with purpose." She gestured toward Lily, who was now leading a small group in an impromptu sing-along. "That little girl asked me a question that changed everything. She made me realize that true wealth isn't what you accumulate. It's what you give away that multiplies." As the evening wound down, Amanda found herself reflecting on the remarkable journey she had documented. What had begun as a simple celebrity interview had evolved into a year-long exploration of compassion, community, and the unexpected ways that individual actions can create lasting change. Patricia Williams approached, carrying a small wrapped package. "This is from Reba," Patricia explained. "She wanted you to have something to remember this story." Amanda unwrapped the gift carefully, revealing a small framed photograph of Reba wearing the red velvet gown she had kept, the dress from the night she met her late husband Charlie. Below the photograph was a handwritten note. "Amanda, you helped tell a story that needed telling. Some dresses are worth keeping because they remind us who we are. Some stories are worth telling because they remind us who we can become. Thank you for helping us all become a little better. Reba." 6 months later, Amanda's book, The Heart Behind the Sequins: How One Question Changed Everything, was published to critical acclaim and commercial success. All proceeds from the book were donated to the Harmony Heals Foundation, adding another layer to the story of giving that had begun with Lily's innocent curiosity. The book's final chapter included an update that would have seemed impossible when Amanda first sat in Reba's living room 18 months earlier. The Harmony Heals Foundation had expanded to include music therapy programs in 87 hospitals across 6 countries. Harrison Webb's memorabilia auction had indeed raised over $18 million, funding international expansion beyond anyone's dreams. But for Amanda, the most meaningful moment came during the book's launch event in Nashville. when a familiar face appeared in the signing line. Lily Morrison, now 11 and cancer-free for over a year, approached with her father Jake and a small acoustic guitar. "Miss Amanda," Lily said with the same directness that had characterized her famous question to Reba, "I wrote a song about your book. Can I play it for everyone?" Without waiting for an answer, Lily positioned her guitar and began playing a simple, beautiful melody with lyrics that captured the essence of everything that had transpired. Sometimes a question starts a song. Sometimes a song can heal what's wrong. Sometimes a dress becomes a dream and nothing's quite the way it seems. Music medicine, flowing free, helping kids like you and me. When the world feels dark and scary, music makes us extraordinary. The bookstore fell silent except for Lily's clear voice and gentle guitar. Amanda looked around the room, seeing faces from throughout this incredible journey. Elena Rodriguez, Dr. Foster, Margaret Thornfield, Daniel Patterson, and dozens of others whose lives had been touched by this unfolding story. As Lily finished her song, the audience erupted in applause. But Amanda's attention was drawn to Reba, who had slipped in quietly during the performance and was standing near the back of the store, tears streaming down her face. Later, as the crowd dispersed, Reba approached Amanda. "You know what the most beautiful part of this whole story is?" Reba asked. "What's that?" "It's not ending. Every child who participates in music therapy, every family that finds hope through these programs, every person inspired to ask, 'How can I help?' They're all writing new chapters." She looked toward Lily, who was now surrounded by other children, teaching them the chords to her song. "That little girl asked me about my dresses because she was curious about beauty and fairness in a difficult world. Now she's creating beauty and hope for other children facing similar challenges." The story has come full circle, but it's also spiraling outward, touching more lives than we could have imagined. Amanda realized that Reba was right. This wasn't a story with a neat ending. It was a story about beginnings. Every dress sold had funded a new beginning for a child facing medical challenges. Every music therapy session was a new beginning for healing. Every person inspired by the story was beginning their own journey of compassion and service. As Amanda walked to her car after the event, she received a text message from an unknown number. "Ms. Sterling, my name is Rebecca Taylor. I'm a nurse at Children's Hospital, Colorado. I read your book and wanted you to know that it inspired me to learn guitar so I could play for my patients during treatments. Small beginnings, but you never know where they might lead. Thank you for showing us that paying attention to children's questions can change the world." Amanda smiled, understanding that the story she had documented was far from over. In hospitals across the globe, children were finding their voices through music. Families were discovering new sources of strength and hope. Healthcare professionals were remembering why they had chosen healing professions in the first place. And somewhere in Nashville, a country music legend continued to receive letters from children around the world, each one proof that a moment of genuine listening, a willingness to see the world through a child's eyes, and the courage to transform personal treasures into collective healing could indeed change everything. The sequins had stopped sparkling under stage lights, but their real brilliance was just beginning. Reflected in the bright eyes of children who had rediscovered joy, the relieved faces of parents who had found new reasons for hope, and the growing community of people committed to ensuring that music would always be available as medicine for young hearts that needed healing. As Reba had said, it wasn't an ending. It was a harmony that would continue playing, growing richer and more complex with each new voice that joined the song.